Hello, and thanks for joining me as we talk about split squats again, I think. I do love me some split squats. Sometimes, however, there's some discomfort or some pain in the split squats. And I don't mean just in your heart or in your soul. I mean sometimes in your hip or in your knee or something like that. And that is what today is about. So, taking a look at what I've written on the whiteboard over here, we're talking about pain or discomfort with split squats. So, I've broken this down into two different portions basically, and that's pain in the front knee, and then looking at that, some points here of how to correct that. And I'm going to demonstrate this for us so that we can actually see it, but so that you can get a look at this in terms of the words of what we're looking to do. So you can take a snapshot of it or whatever you want to do here. If we have pain in the front knee, the first order of business here is we want to make sure that we put some pressure into that front heel. If I have pain in the front knee, I want to make sure that I'm pushing the front heel down. If we still have pain after that, number two here is we want to maybe try positioning that back foot back a little bit further. Now, moving on to the next more common pain that we'll experience or discomfort that we'll experience with split squats is pain or discomfort in the back knee or hip here. So what do we do about it? First thing that we can try is bringing that back foot closer to the front foot. Then the second thing that we can do is we can try bringing the chest to the knee on the descent. And then a couple other points here that I'll talk about when we wrap up. So I'm going to set us up over here so that we can take a look as we actually move through these two different points. So as I set up for my split squat here, I'm in that split stance, all right? And so generally, I might start with something like shoulder width apart, and then I'm going to turn from there, okay? So if I'm shoulder width apart and then I turn, that's generally about where I want my stance to be. Okay, from here, if I'm coming down and I'm experiencing pain in this front knee here, the first thing that I want to do, if you can see it, is I want to push my heel down into the ground. You don't have to do that so aggressively. Just trying to theatrical. Make sure that that heel stays down, okay? As we're descending in that split squat, I want to push through that heel as I'm coming up. I want to make sure my heel stays planted on the way down and then pushing through my front foot, that heel, as I come back up. Oftentimes, when I'm correcting or adjusting a member or a client with this positioning, that works. Oh, I didn't realize. I got to keep my weight in my heel. Awesome. And this just has to do with where we're applying pressure. If we're a little bit more on the ball of the foot here, it's going to demand a little bit more from the knee joint. Unless we're looking for something very specific in that exercise, we want an even displacement of weight between the front and the rear foot. So we want to make sure that that heel is down. Now, if this didn't quite do the trick, sometimes it doesn't. So we're in our stance, we're in that shoulder width apart stance, we've turned, okay? I'm still getting pain even though I'm driving through my heel. I'll take this back foot and I'll come back a little bit more. And then I'll come down, continuing to drive through the heel, but you'll see now here that my shin is more straight up and down. It's more vertical here. I don't have as much bend in that front knee. So that means there's not as much pressure on that knee going forward. So sometimes this can alleviate the discomfort for us. I open up the stance a little bit wider and I'm coming down here instead of coming down and a little bit more forward there. It's not that one is necessarily wrong or right. They do different things. And I want to be very clear about that. But just because we're in pain on a movement, we don't want to just throw it out. We want to try and get some kind of work in there if we're able to, so long as the pain is not present. Okay, so that's the first one. If I have pain in my front knee, okay? Now, this happens quite often that we're doing a split squat, so we're in that split squat position, and I'm getting pain in my back knee or in my hip, somewhere on that back leg as I'm coming down in that split squat. Now, believe it or not, this is oftentimes a hip-related issue. There's restriction in the hip flexors. And as there's tension there, or as we're trying to maintain a little bit more upright of a torso, it really pulls on those muscles as they're a little bit tighter. And then it will manifest as pain in the leg, halfway down the leg, or even down into the knee. So what do we do about this here? So if I've taken that really wide stance, and that's what's creating that distress here, what I'll do is I'll narrow that stance a little bit. Sometimes that does the trick. As I bring my feet a little bit closer together, it's not as far back, it's not as demanding on the hip. This is really pulling that hip open. As I come a little bit closer, doesn't pull on the hip as much, and I might not get pain down the leg, in the hip, or down the leg. Sometimes that works. Other times it does not. So what do we do here? So as we're in this setup, I'm still getting some pain in the back hip. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna bring my chest down to my knee as I'm doing my split squat. Instead of being this upright position, not a bad position, but as I'm upright, it's pulling that hip open more. If I'm getting pain, I don't want to pull that hip open as much. So I bring my chest down to my knee, effectively keeping this not as stretched out or open. And now, hopefully, I'm not experiencing that same pain while still getting that good work in that front leg, which is really our target there. It's getting that front leg to work in the split squat, not our back leg. So folding over a little bit more, bringing our chest to the knee, maybe looking down at the ground instead of looking straight up, will help in alleviating any sort of tension in that back leg there. All right, we did ourselves some split squats. All right, so just to recap here, we see pain in the front knee, and that was the first one that we went over. We push the front heel down, is first order of business, and then second order of business is maybe positioning the back foot a little bit further back. And that's when we have pain in the front knee. When we have pain in the back knee or hip, we bring the back foot closer. If that doesn't work, then we're going to try bringing our chest to the knee on the descent or folding over a little bit more as we come down. Remembering that our objective in the split squat is really that front leg that we're working. So we want to position things in a way that we're able to do that work. Now, just a note here, because as we change the position of our feet, our stance, it's going to effectively recruit muscles differently. So with our feet closer together, we're going to get a little bit more quad or a little bit more of the top of the leg. And then as we separate the feet a little bit more, we're going further apart, we're going to see that we get a little bit more hamstring or a little bit more glute as we do that variation. Split squats. There we have it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you next time.